Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sissy Stitches. So first of all, I wanted to say thank you so much to everyone for all the lovely, nice comments that I received on my first video. You really, inspired me to continue on with this YouTube channel and create a few more videos. So again, thank you so much, and thank you to Elizabeth for letting everyone know. I know, all of you watch her channel, and so thank you so much for your support, Elizabeth. I really appreciate it. Okay, today what I wanted to talk about is, in the last video, I showed you a set of Kaffe Fassett jelly roll strips that I wanted to make into a quilt. So I got started on my new Madeline quilt using these beautiful Kaffe Fassett jelly roll strips paired with a neutral background. And I've got the tall rows to sew together now, so let's get going. So the tall rows start with the print on the left. So I'm just gonna get this set up, and here we go. And now we have a completed row of tall blocks sewn together. Wasn't that fast? So I'm working on the layout for my Madeline quilt, and had a hard time figuring out all the places where the different blocks would touch. Because of course I got ahead of myself and sewed some of the short rows together first before laying out all the blocks. So I had to pull out the computer and put the fabrics in a spreadsheet to figure out where they were going to touch when it was all put together. So hopefully I've got it figured out, and we'll see once I get them all sewn together. But yeah, here's a sneak peek of the sort of finished quilt. There's a row of short ones that I don't have laying down because they're on my sewing machine. But anyway, yeah, we'll see how far I can get. Okay, now we're going to sew one of the short rows together. So I've only got 7 different fabrics on the short rows. So, and I'm doing 14 block pair across, so there'll be a repeat that you might notice after I do 7 of these blocks together. just making sure I'm sewing these together correctly because there's an offset to the pattern, and the short rows start with a neutral on the left, and the tall rows start with the print on the left. So just double checking myself before I have to rip out a whole row of sewing, which I'm not fond of doing, but it happens. Okay, now we have a row of small strips sewn together. So one of the things I like to use when I'm quilting is this 1/4-inch quilting guide, and it has a little, let me see if I can use this. It has a little edge here that your fabric butts up against. And I never thought about this, but I talked to someone at the retreat a couple of weekends ago, and they said that they were having trouble with their seams because they would switch between using this type of quilting foot versus maybe the markings just on your throat plate down here, or I don't know, various other types of quilting rulers. And she kept getting different results with her seams. So I've never measured this. I bought it off of, I think, Amazon, or you can get them at local quilting stores, or, you know, wherever you buy your sewing machine accessories. But this was less than $10 on Amazon, and it's well worth it. It keeps all of my seams uniform, and if they're a 1/4 inch or if they're a hair over or below, they're all consistent. So all I'm looking for is consistency to help with my quilting. So I like this little guardrail here because it gives me something to bump up against. And, you know, I know a lot of people have their own favorite ways of doing them, but that's mine. So, all right, now let's go iron all of these 20-something seams open. Yay! I think I heard that the most dreaded 3 words in quilting are press seams open. And they're not wrong. But hey, you know, it does make for a better finished quilt look if you do press your seams open, especially on this one, this particular pattern. So anyway, off to the quilting board. Well, actually off to the ironing board. Okay, so we're just gonna press these open, and I just use a dry iron to press, and I go ahead and press the previous ones again. It just makes it easier to get the new ones pressed open, because it's kind of tight. So I just pull it up a little bit so I can press that one open, press this one down, and then press it open without messing up the ones beside it. And that's the trick, to try to not mess up the seams next to it. And so last week, ta-da, I finished the quilt top. And I'm just really loving all these fun bright colors. So yeah, so I was planning to have it fully quilted this weekend, but when I went to my appointment at the quilting studio, they were having electrical issues in their shopping center, and so no one had any power, so that got messed up. But I do have a reschedule for tomorrow, so this is the front, and then I've got this blue cobblestone here to do the back. So it's all ready to go. You have to use zippers to load it on the quilting machines, but all I have to do is set it up tomorrow and let the machine do the work for quilting it together. But I was hoping to have that finished, at least, well, maybe not fully finished with binding and all, but at least have it quilted before I filmed again. But anyway, I was running out of time, so that's where we are on this. But it's really a beautiful, it's Kaffe Fassett jelly roll that I bought a few weeks ago. So I'll put a picture of the full quilt top in right here so you can see what the full size looks like. It's about, I think 54 by 66, something like that. It's just a lap quilt or couch quilt. But anyway, it was a lot of fun to make. It goes together so fast. Again, this is the Madeline quilt pattern. It is a paid quilt pattern, so I can't, share any more details than I already have. But you can, if you're interested, you can look the pattern up online and purchase it for yourself. But it's super fun, super fast, and I love the way it goes. The way it finishes when you use bright colored fabric. So I've made it so far with 2 different Kaffe Fassett sets of prints, and then I also made one for myself that I kept that I showed last week with some Ruby Star Society. I think it was Darlings 2 was the jelly roll I used on that. But anyway, it's a good way to use up a bunch of neutral scraps. You don't have to use all the same neutrals for your backgrounds. I did in this one in particular because I had enough to do the whole quilt. But in mine that I made for myself, I had a bunch of scrap pieces that I used to finish mine with. So however you want to do it, it's a fun way to use up a lot of scraps, which I tend to accumulate and collect. Okay, so that was all of the quilting that I got up to in the last week. For cross stitch, I have this one chart that I'm working on right now, Pernice Manor, and I did quite a bit of stitching on that. So since I wasn't able to keep my quilting appointment, I had a lot of extra time to do some cross stitching. So let's see here. This is the progress I've made. So sorry for the wrinkles up top, but anyway, you can see this is the top border on the left, and all the way down at the bottom is the very bottom edge. So this first flower on the far end in the corner is going to have a stem coming down from it, but the other one is flipped. So that is the actual bottom of it. So anyway, this is a really, really fun stitch. I like the colors. They're very fall, kind of goes with the season. But yeah, it's really nice. So the name of the chart is Pernice Manor, and it's by Teresa Kogut. So that is my cross stitch update. And okay, so this next little bit will cover some haul that I picked up this week or was delivered. So as I mentioned on some of Elizabeth's videos, I shop at Dollar Tree for various things. Well, I found this cute little Crafter's Square dinosaur crochet kit, and it comes with all the supplies, even a crochet hook and a needle to make it. So I thought I would give this a try and see. It's just about the perfect size for a little tree ornament for the Christmas tree. So I think I'm going to work on this in the next couple of weeks and see if I can't finish it up. Excuse me. And then also while I was there, I picked up a little small bottle of my favorite glue for finishing, this Aleene's tacky glue. Again, for $1.25. I don't think it'll get, I think I'll use it up before it goes bad. So anyway, there's that. Those are my two bargain finds. And then for my not so bargain finds comes all of my quilting material haul. So there was a sale at Missouri Star Quilt Company. I forget their exact website name, but they had 2 yard cuts of Kaffe Fassett, and when Elizabeth and I were on our retreat a few weeks ago, they were having this sale on, and literally 5 minutes before the sale ended, Saturday night, I pulled the trigger and ordered a bunch of 2 yard cuts. So I have these, forget what they call it, classics jumble. Anyway, 2 different spot prints of Kaffe Classic. One's called Yellow, the other's called Royal, but they're very pretty. And then I got 2 big floral prints that I just really, I love all of his big, bold, splashy flowers and colors. And I have to dig way down deep for this. So I think I mentioned that next year I have a couple of friends who I went to high school with, and we'll all have a milestone birthday next year. And so I wanted to make each of them a quilt for their birthdays. So that's coming up soon in February. So I thought I need to get busy with that. So the last quilt I made was when we all turned 50, and was very super basic with huge, gigantic blocks, just pieced together. Not really even a quilt in my opinion, but it was a quilt, but you know, anyway. So I've decided, here's the fabric that I bought for one of my friends. She likes dark colors. So these 2 Kaffe Fassett prints will be paired together. And these 2 will go together. And then these 2 will go together. And so I'm going to make, my plan is to make a double wedding ring lap quilt like I made for myself. And then this solid color, it's a Kona mahogany, is going to be the arcs. So where mine had white arcs, hers is going to have these. This for the arcs, and then these 2 will make the center of the wedding ring, and then also make the center of the melon. It'll be a 4-patch. So I just thought all of these colors, see if I can hold them up without spilling everything. I thought all of these together would make a really, really pretty quilt for her based on the colors that she likes. So that is my plan for this fabric. For the first set, I don't really have a plan for yet. But what I thought I'd mention is if anybody is interested in making a double wedding ring quilt, I probably won't start this until after Thanksgiving. But just, you know, if you're interested, I can film a little bit of how I do them. I do a very simple method in that I don't piece the arcs. I use solid pieces for all of my parts of the double wedding ring quilt that I make. I have done the pieced arcs in one quilt, And so I've checked that box, and I'm pretty much sticking to the solid rings now. So if anyone's interested in that, just, leave me a comment, if you'd like to see some double wedding ring. I don't want to overcommit on doing that, but I know I need to get it done. So if anybody's interested, I can film some short clips and put those in. So speaking of some quilting video clips, I thought that I would kick off the Sawtooth Star quilt along in today's video. So what my suggestion is, I make a lot of Sawtooth Star quilts that use 12 fat quarters, and that gives you about a 48 by 64 inch finished quilt. So, a small lap quilt for while you're watching TV, or for, a tall quilt for a small person, whatever. We're all tall over here, so anything under a 70-inch quilt is considered a small quilt. But if you'd like to, join in on that, what I would suggest is getting your fat quarters together. I used a bundle. So all of my fabrics are from the same line, simply because that's what I have. And for me, it makes it so much easier to, make everything look good together. So usually I send out a mass text message to my design consultants, aka my daughters, and they'll come back and say, thumbs up, thumbs down, or what were you thinking, stuff like that. Don't do that, which is all, I want that input from them, so they're free to give it. So anyway, what I did with mine is I just took a light and a dark. Yeah, sorry, got the words and the fabrics mixed up. But I just, you want to have some contrast so that it doesn't look like it's all the same within the block. So I would start by first, however you prepare your fabric before you cut, do that. I know there's a lot of different ways that people do it. I iron with a dry iron to get the wrinkles out before I start cutting, and that's about the extent of my preparation. I know some people use starch. These are not teeny tiny pieces, so I don't know, but whatever you like to do, prepare your fabric for cutting, and then pair up. You'll want 6 pairs of 2 fabrics. So this is option 1, pair 1. This is another pair. This is another pair. And let's see. Here is another pair. And the other pair I'll show you in a minute because it's on my cutting mat. So anyway, so step 1, prepare your fabric for cutting. Step 2, pair up your fat quarters. And then I will show you my diagram for how I cut fat quarters so that you can do 12 blocks and get a 3 block by 4 block layout using 12 fat quarters with very little fabric waste. And also with really not much room for error in your cutting. So you have to be pretty confident when you cut this that, measure 2 or 3 times before you cut. That's what I do. So here is a little picture, that I made. Let's see if I can put it up there. Okay, so to make the 16-inch stars, these are all the measurements, and I'll try to figure out, I can type it in, but I just can't draw the picture. So the picture is really what I wanted to point out. So when you cut your fabric, you'll see right here, these are the 4.5 inch blocks. So a fat quarter is 18 inches tall by 22 inches wide. Sometimes they're a little taller, but if yours is exactly 18 inches, then this layout will work. If you cut a 4.5 inch strip by 18 inches long, and then subcut that into 4.5 inch squares. That's one set. And then moving over, I can't read upside down. Okay, so you need a 9.25 inch square, and right above that, you want to cut an 8.5 inch square. So the 9.25 inch square is going to be used for your flying geese. The 8.5 inch square is going to be the center of your block. Okay, so cut these two sections out first, the 4.5 inch squares and then the big blocks. Then whatever is left over, you want to cut a 4 7/8 inch strip, and then subcut that into 3, 4 7/8 inch. 4, 3 7/8. Let's start over. You'll cut that into 4 blocks that are 4 7/8 inch square, and then there'll be a small piece that's left over at the end. That small piece that's left over, you'll need to add a piece from this midsection here that's left over to make your fourth 4 7/8 inch block. Okay, so if your fabric your fat quarter was somehow like closer to 19 inches, then instead of cutting these here, you could do 4.5, 4.5, and then beside it 4.5, 4.5, and then above it you could do 4 7/8, 4 7/8. But again, that would require that your fat quarter was almost 19 inches tall, and usually they're not that often the cutting. They don't have that generous of a cut. But measure your fat quarter, see what you can get away with. If you do have fat quarters that are almost 19 inches tall, then you can easily cut the 4.5 inch squares and 4 7/8 inch squares on top of each other, and you wouldn't have to piece one of these together right here. I hope that makes sense. But anyway, if you want to get started cutting, that's what you need to do. You'll need 4 4.5 inch squares, one that's 9.25, one that's 8.5 inch square, and then 4 that are 4 7/8 of an inch. Okay? So anyone that wants to follow in the quilt along can go ahead and get started with that. And then after the holidays, I will put together a tutorial of me actually doing my cutting and then sewing the block together. And just a little spoiler alert if somebody's itching to get ahead. When I do the flying geese, the reason why there's this 9.25 inch block is because I use the 4 at a time, no waste method of sewing them together. So that's why you need such a big block for that. But you know, I'll go into detail on how that is. But if you want to Google, no waste or 4 at a time flying geese, you can see how that's done. But anyway, the only other thing that I had today, let's see if I can, oh, and I had to run out and buy me a new 6x24 quilting ruler this morning in the rain, but I needed one. So let's see if I can change the focus down here. Whoops. Okay, so this is my last pair of fabrics that I matched up, so just gonna lay one over here. I know a lot of people like to cut two fabrics together at one time to save time, but I am such an imperfect cutter that I've learned that I can only cut one at a time most of the time. So I just wanted to see how long. So the fat quarter I have is about 18.5 inches tall. So I don't think that's gonna allow me to stack this. I mean, to stack my blocks. So I think what it means is that I will end up having to piece one of my 4 7/8 inch blocks together. But measure yours, like I say, every fat quarter it could be slightly different. Just measure before you start cutting. And that will get us started for the quilt along. So get your fabric prepared, measured, cut if you have time, and after the holidays, we'll get together and start sewing these together, and I'll show you how I do it. And whoops, okay. All right, so if you want to participate in the quilt along, then just get your fabrics ready to cut them if you have time. And then after Thanksgiving, probably, I'll put out another video on how to put the blocks together once they're cut. So I think typically a 12 fat quarters usually takes about, 15 minutes to cut out each fat quarter and all the pieces, assuming I don't make a mistake. And then another 5 minutes to sew the two pieces together to make that one extra 4 7/8 inch block if I have to do the piece method on that. One thing I wanted to mention about that is I know a lot of people, or some people may not like to piece what should be a solid block, but I've done this many times, and these 4 7/8 inch squares are part of the points on the flying geese. So let's see. Oh, I don't have a picture. I thought I had drawn one. I have my little book here of quilting notes. It's real fancy. It's a nice spiral bound 10-cent notebook that I get whenever they have them on school supply sale. Okay, well, it doesn't look like I have anything in here, but basically, oh, here's one. So the points right here, that's what gets pieced. So you'll end up with a little piece near this point or near that point. And it won't be on every single one in your quilt. And honestly, unless you have a crazy directional fabric, it's not going to show in your quilt when it's finished. But if you don't like that idea of piecing the blocks together, you can go for a smaller size. You will end up with a smaller quilt, but you can go with a smaller block size. So you can move down to a 14-inch block or a 12-inch block. But these are going to be 16-inch blocks. So anyway, I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving and has lots of good food and good times with friends and family. I know we will. We're actually going to do a little pre-Thanksgiving vacation and take our 2 oldest grandsons with us and go on a cruise out of Galveston. So I'm very excited for that. And Diana, if you're watching, if you're cruising out of Galveston right before this weekend before Thanksgiving, stop and say hi. We really had a great time meeting you and your husband when we were on the Alaska cruise last year. So anyway, not sure if I'll have anything out before Thanksgiving, but if not, happy Thanksgiving to all, and we'll talk to you in the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.